area during the 2021. And nevertheless, we also took the impact of COVID-19 and key learnings from how we respond to the pandemic during that time. And also we took this opportunity as the national report for the SDG, and we also made an effort to analyze all the goals, even though they were not the thematic area of this 2021 high-level political forum. Next. So just to give you an overview of SDG progress and challenges in Bhutan, at the moment, and also when we were reporting on the VNR in 2021, we were in the midst of implementation of our current 5-year plan, which is 12 5-year plan. And the 12 5-year plan has 17 national key reserve areas, which were all closely aligned to 17 SDGs. And the report in 2021 found that there were broad-based progress made across all SDGs. And Bhutan is due to graduate from the LDC category by the end of 2023. I think this is also because of the success that we have made over the last few decades in terms of development of the country, so that we could at least initiate and discuss on the graduation from the LDC category. And like globally, the COVID-19 pandemic has direct or immediate impact on a lot of the SDGs, and particularly the impact was on the education, livelihoods, and well-being, in addition to the revenue or the economy of the country. So during the 2021 VNR, it was found that most of the SDGs we were on track to achieve, but unlike in the 2018 VNR, where all the SDGs were on track except SDG 17, but the 2021, it somehow deteriorated. That the report found that the assessment found that we were at risk of achieving SDGs, particularly the 4 SDGs, such as SDG 1 on poverty, SDG 4 on education, SDG 8 on economic, SDG 10 on equity, in addition to the 17, the goal 17, which was on partnership and means of implementation, which was also found as at risk even during the first VNR report that we have submitted. Next one is on the impact of COVID. So in our stance, the Bhutan stance during the COVID-19 was safeguard the livelihood. The main was to safeguard the lives over livelihood. So the country had to undergo a lot of most stringent COVID-19 measures in the world. And we sealed our international border since March 2020, and it was reopened only after 2.5 years. The opening happened in September this year. So the school has to go for an extended closure, and there were restriction. Thank you. Restriction on the visit of tourists, a lot of national and regional level lockdowns that have actually impacted the livelihood and well-being of the people, and economy actually slowed down. Next slide. So in the history, I think we had our economy recorded the lowest decelerated at a negative, decelerated at 10%. Which was actually the 15% drop, 15 percentage point drop from the previous year, which was the growth was at around 6% in 2019. So this is a historic record of low economic growth that Bhutan has saw in its recent history. And all the sectors except for the agriculture sector and the hydropower sectors, the rest of the sectors experienced negative growth during that year because of COVID. And we had also experienced large number of people were displaced from the job, depriving their livelihood, and unemployment rate has also increased compared to the past year, reached at the highest level, which is which was 5%. Next slide. So now, just to mention a few impact, the measures that we have taken to minimize the impact of COVID-19. Next slide, please. So of many measures that the government of Bhutan has taken, I think the very prominent and that worth mentioning here is the His Majesty's Relief Kidu, or the His Majesty's Welfare Scheme, which was launched as soon as the COVID-19 hit the country in the early 2020, where the most vulnerable and all the people, vulnerable people were supported with minimum income cash transfer, as well as the loans and loan were deferred, interest payment were covered by the government. So this is the one measure that His Majesty has taken to save the livelihood and the lives of people. Many people, around 37,000 people, and including the children, have benefited from this relief welfare scheme from His Majesty. And it was also, earlier it was designed for a year, but since COVID-19 was not going soon, so it was further extended for another year till June this year. Next slide. So in addition, the government has to come up with the economic contingency plan 2 times, one for 2020 and another for 2021, to minimize the impact and to recover from the impact of COVID-19. And we have also a lot of policy that were developed to minimize the inequity issue, and to also for the protection of vulnerable people. And the education has went massive online education in Bhutan. So next slide. So what I would like to say is that we do not have recent data on the actual impact of COVID-19 and how effective were our measures. And we currently we are undergoing Bhutan Living Standards Survey. I think from there we will see actually that we can quantify the impact, the positive impact of our Bhutanese measures that we have taken over the last couple of years. So the last slide, I would like to give some of my reflection on VNR and regional and sub-regional review as per the agenda. So I think the VNR review, as well as this kind of forum, has really helped in terms of deepening societal awareness and strengthening ownership of SDGs. And in Bhutan, we do not take this the VNR reporting and any other SDG related reporting as just a report making exercise. We took this as an opportunity to really see where we are in terms of implementing SDGs, and in terms of implement SDGs which are truly aligned to our national programs. And it also helped in keeping momentum in terms of SDG implementation vis-a-vis pursuing our own national plans and programs. And we also track that the VNR report also serves as the national SDG report. And it also helps in terms of building capacity of the national officials. And lastly, such kind of forum we get a lot of ideas through sharing our knowledge and best practices from across the other countries. I think with this, I came to an end of my presentation. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Purba. I must say that Bhutan really took COVID-19 as an opportunity and brought about some impressive changes. Moving on, I'd like to invite Mr. Faisal Mushtaq for his interventions. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Madam, Honorable Madam, and distinguished members and guests from all across the region, South and Southwest Asia. A very warm welcome to each one of you to our beautiful country, Pakistan. My name is Dr. Faisal Mushtaq. I've been associated with teaching and learning, society and knowledge economy for the last 25 years in Pakistan. I am not a public policy practitioner on SDGs and our national ecosystem for the implementation of SDGs. But I'll speak today on the topic and on the theme on the need for VNRs and the reflections as a classroom practitioner, as a social entrepreneur, and as someone who's responsible for the social contract within society, in particular Pakistan. So we do a lot of schools, colleges, and universities. And I tell you, I got to know that it is now transformed into SDGs. So here the world has another 15 years to ensure the 17 interlinked blueprint for creating peace and prosperity for planet and people. But at the very heart of these 17 interlinked goals is our global commitment to the planet. But remember, people on the planet, they do work for profits. Profits do not come at the cost of inclusive sustainability. So there's a United Nations framework which talks about talent, trade, and technology. Now, when we speak about MDGs to SDGs, now where is the global inclusive commitment to ensure that by 2030, that with all the efforts that we are doing with the VNRs and with the national reflections and with the regional reflections, especially the twinning and the partnerships, that we achieve the SDGs? I have a fear that from 30 to 45, they may be rebranded as IDGs, Inclusive Development Goals. So for me, the most critical aspect of VNRs for developing countries in South Asia should be that they should be MNRs, they should be mandatory reviews and reflections. SDGs in developing countries should also be categorized, especially in context of a country like Pakistan, where we have an 18th national amendment. And the impediment of that amendment says that provinces are independent. So unless and until, as a nation here in Pakistan, we do not create our national development goals and then we cascade them at the provincial level and at the community level. My understanding of being an education and a knowledge practitioners around the region, that I have seen that most of the discussions on SDGs around the world, I'm a well-attended person, may that be World Economic Forum or may that be a Regional Development and Trade Forum, is going around in the policy rooms, it is going around in the hotel rooms and in the cabinets, whereas the real dialogue takes place in the classroom, in the communities, and in the constituencies that we belong. So hence education, and I think the national curriculum and the frameworks, the textbook boards, you cannot create, schools around the world. In Southeast Asia in particular, they build a knowledge society. The universities of South Asia and Southwest Asia, they build a knowledge economy. In absence of embedding the SDGs as part of your core curriculum, you are not bound to achieve a true immersive, inclusive, and a sustainable ecosystem for people to realize that what SDGs mean to them. We talk about inequality, education, at the cost of what is happening, the war in Ukraine, at the cost of the climate disaster where 1/3 of our country is underwater, at the cost of what we see in South China Sea. So when you look at the global ASEAN summits, the SAARC summits, the OICs, the World Cup for cricket and FIFA, and the G8s and the G7s, why there is no policy mention of SDGs as part of the press releases? I am committed through the school. We tell you about the softer interventions that we do. Each morning, we have an open house and we have a morning assembly presentation where students, they pick up an SDG and then they make a presentation. Then at the end of the month, there is an open day. And based on one of the SDGs ideas and the thematic areas, we pick up the open day themes as well. A real educationist once said that the real purpose of education in the modern world and in society is to replace an empty mind with an open mind. Educated person is not the one who has just lots of knowledge of curriculum and books, but it is to replace an empty mind with an open mind. And as we speak of openness, to speak about industrialization, innovation, inequality, poverty, and education and literacy, remember, the most strategic thing is the young people and the youth of your countries in South Asia and Southwest Asia. And as much that you are all committed in the public policy paradigm and making those strategic commitments at the boardrooms and at these global forums, you must not leave your moral commitment in ensuring that the education in the modern world is inclusive and it has that embeddedness. And then as I speak on VNRs, I do feel that there should be mandatory reflections as well. And I must also say that for Pakistan, it is a far more important and unique challenge because we face a lot of challenges with the out of school children. And in Pakistan, we are really struggling with literacy, and the recent COVID reflections, they have added on to the learning poverty and the learning inflation. So learning poverty means that, less people are now being able to reach access and that equitable access to teaching and learning. So to conclude, as being an educational and a classroom practitioner in my country, SDGs are close to my heart and they're part of my national agenda. My group of 100 independent private schools, colleges, independent university, each day we inhale and we exhale SDGs. Here in the largest auditorium of the convention center in Islamabad, 2 years ago, I hosted a whole national inclusive dialogue where each and every school reflected one of the SDGs. I request upon the panel and all the esteemed members of the global community and the regional fraternity, and for the work that they are doing, I appreciate them. However, I do feel in my country, VNRs should become more of a mandatory process to reflect and to further ensure implementation. We should, as a society and the world, not look for an excuse to go beyond 2030. If we are looking for an excuse and going beyond 2030, then it will just become a rhetoric. And to the work sustainable and strategic, no one in the world has been able to find the meaning of the word strategic. Some say assets are such strategic. Some say relationships